Every time I think of Fallout and the potential of such a series, I start to get depressed, because on paper Fallout has everything that you need to create arguably one of the coolest games ever made over and over again. It's post-apocalyptic war themes mixed with American political structures existing in a world with giant rad scorpions, and people that are turning into literal ghouls. There's something there that's kind of amazing. I'll admit firsthand, I got into Fallout when Bethesda started making the game, so Fallout 3 was my first Fallout game, like many of you as well. And I did think it was a great game, especially for its time. Then I was wowed again by New Vegas. While it was technically somewhat of a mess at launch in terms of like stability and bugs, the actual game itself was really well done. And the player choice and reactivity of its world was just like next level, dude. Fallout 4 for me, however, was one of the biggest disappointments I played in years. It just felt like at that point that Fallout 4, when it got released, that Bethesda had officially turned Fallout into like their Far Cry-like series, if that makes sense. And Fallout 3, like Far Cry 3, became sort of the blueprint of what the players wanted, I guess, yet frustratingly, just like Ubisoft with Far Cry, Bethesda just refused to really innovate or evolve this series much outside of, say, base building, I guess. Personally, having also your main guy speak in Fallout 4, that wasn't an issue for me. It was more so that no matter what you really said, that the main guy you played just didn't really sound mean enough. That was more the problem for me, but since then, we've had Fallout 76, which is like a live service game that I just honestly have zero interest in because it's live service, obviously, and full of that usual stuff. And then since then, we've had, well, nothing really. All we've gotten is a remaster of Fallout 4 and the anniversary update, which broke the game somehow, revealing that Bethesda just can't figure themselves out no matter how many times they seem to attempt to do it. And as I look at the future of Fallout and the information I'm going to present, it made me then wonder if Bethesda is even capable of capturing that lightning in the bottle, so to speak, ever again. It's as if Bethesda routinely misses the point and always finds a way to not capture the soul of what makes Fallout so interesting in the first place. And why does every new Bethesda Fallout project just feel hollow? It's not about the graphics or like the bugs. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes the wasteland of Fallout, which is a character in itself, feel truly alive. It's as if the ghost in the machine, the elusive soul that Obsidian captured years ago with New Vegas, seems to now be something that Bethesda just can't really replicate these days. As seen here from Insider Gaming, it's claimed that a New Vegas remaster is going to come eventually. The source of this claim is WindowsCentral.com. According to them, we're getting both a Fallout 3 and New Vegas remaster in the style of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion like it happened last year. It is a great idea to do that since New Vegas is still marooned on consoles anyways, all the way back on the PS3 and 360 system still, which is still baffling to me that it's taken this long to get a remaster out of that game considering that New Vegas in its totality was made in like 18 months. These days, creating something like New Vegas in 18 months would be genuinely impossible to do. But the other problem, and I think this is not only unique to Obsidian, but it just feels like Fallout can't reach its like potential due to Bethesda themselves. Obsidian used to be an amazing game developer, okay? They made classics like Knights of the Old Republic 2, New Vegas, like I already said, and even South Park Stick of Truth. That game's awesome too. In the past anyways, Obsidian has been able to take franchises they did not create themselves, but still make really good games in those spaces. My skepticism, however, isn't really unfounded. I just need to look at the current state of Obsidian and Bethesda to just see where these companies are at when it comes to what they can reasonably create now. Obsidian, for the most part, has been making smaller games, which seems to work for them. However, whenever they do go and make a game that is sort of in line with what New Vegas was, I guess, we could call it AAA-esque if you will, they kind of just keep making slop, if I'm being honest. The thing is, we need to understand that there's a schism in where a lot of these companies used to be like versus what they are like now. I would consider that schism to be somewhere near 2020 or so. During that time, many people were being hired en masse at companies due to the pandemic. After all, companies needed their workers, but it had to be done remotely for obvious reasons, so a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily get hired in these positions were in fact now being hired. I don't need to tell you, because of this, a lot of games that have been released from famed and storied development studios suddenly took a massive nosedive between their pre-2020 selves and this mass hiring spree era and now. The problem with these mass hirings was that it led to complete changes in the studio's culture as well. I've covered this extensively on my channel for years, about how companies were incentivized to hire people based on skin color or gender over talent for years. You've heard it plenty, I know. But by doing that, they would then be rewarded with boatloads of cash infusions. This is why everything made from 2020 to about 2024 or so was honestly just full of misfires, because the things being made were usually only studio in name alone now. Rocksteady with Kill the Justice League, Obsidian even with The Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed, which were two games that there's no way those games sold enough respectively to win back their budgets at all. Especially The Outer Worlds 2, which was the epitome of a game that sort of just came and went when it released late in 2025. As 80level.com reported back in October 2025, The Outer Worlds 2 had an even lower player count than Avowed. Neither of these games could surpass the original Outer Worlds either, by the way. Some may say it's the Game Pass effect, but that can't be it. Oblivion Remastered soared into the hundreds of thousands on Steam alone, despite also being on Game Pass. Starfield did the same. I mean, even Claire Obscura Expedition 33, that was on Game Pass alone too. So was Metaphor Refantasio, and that's just to name another game. But Obsidian should be considered a developer in the similar annals, I guess, of fame like Bethesda even, yet their games are not reaching any impressive numbers anymore. You can't really blame Game Pass, and really the only reason is kind of simple. The people who made these amazing games in the past, they have left, and it is happening all over. And like I said, when the mass hirings of 2020 happened, it ended up changing a lot of studio culture within these companies too, to the point that many studios could be considered just that studio in name only now. And while some may like to act as if just because a studio made great games in the past, that means that they could replicate it easily in the future, I unfortunately am a realist and I just can't see it that way. Instead, I have to objectively look at what these studios have made in recent years, and that is obviously what they're capable of now too. So saying that current Bethesda can do Fallout 3 or Skyrim again in terms of quality is likely not true, because current Bethesda is actually what Starfield was instead, what the anniversary update was for Fallout 4, what Shattered Space, the expansion for Starfield, was as well. And everything I just listed there, which are actual things that mainline Bethesda has made in the past 2 years and then some, has been nothing but disappointments, lack of any real ingenuity, and frankly, just bad game design. I know people like to be hopeful and say, oh, but they can do it again, right? But that's not really how it works. If they were capable of continuing their winning streak, then they would have kept doing that, wouldn't they? Why would they on purpose release something that was terrible? The only reason why is simple. It's what they're capable of that gets released. Why do you think so many Western studios have gotten worse from their early 2000 days till now? Look at BioWare. They made stuff like KOTOR and Jade Empire, Mass Effect, Dragon Age Origins, one after another. But the reality is that current BioWare is not capable of creating those classics like they did anymore. We know this because Veilguard exists. There was a mass glimmer of hope though when Inquisition released in 2014, but since then all you really got was Anthem, which is shutting down soon, and yeah, Veilguard. Like, I'm not even trying to be cynical or negative on purpose here. Like I said, I'm just being objective. I'm looking at what's gotten made, especially in the last 5 years, and the conclusion that I keep coming to is there is a connective through line between all of these Western studios and their lack of ability to create classics anymore. Obsidian should on paper be able to make a New Vegas 2 or an equivalent, but they haven't been able to do that. As PC Gamer said here in a sort of Cope article, but apparently Obsidian is not interested in a sequel to New Vegas, which makes no sense to me. You're not interested in making a sequel to what is arguably your most successful and long-standing game of all time. I think the real reason why Obsidian is not interested is because they just are not capable of doing that again anymore. And honestly, this is misleading because, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't The Outer Worlds, which Obsidian owns, basically just their own version of Fallout pretty much? Like, that's why The Outer Worlds was created in the first place. I mean, even Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky, who were the original creators of Fallout, by the way, they worked with Obsidian to create a spiritual successor to Fallout, since the Fallout IP, obviously at the time, was owned by Bethesda. And this was well before Microsoft ended up owning both Obsidian and Bethesda eventually anyways. So obviously there was a hunger to make Fallout New Vegas again, because The Outer Worlds, while it was not nearly as good as New Vegas in any way, honestly, it still sold a couple million copies, so it clearly justified itself getting a sequel game at least. And even then, Leonard and Tim him. They worked on Outer Worlds 2 again as well, which I said came out in 2025 to basically zero fanfare. And it left as quickly as it got released pretty much because nobody talked about that game at all during its release. But the mere existence of Outer Worlds 2 suggests that actually, yes, Obsidian was interested in a New Vegas very recently, actually. It literally just came out, but again, they wanted it under their own IP. But from what people have said online about the Outer Worlds 2, its plot is really boring. Every main faction is unsurprisingly led by strong girl boss women people. Most villains are obviously men, including the main bad guy dude, and the game foolishly pulls a Fallout 3-like with its ending, where you can't technically play it once you're done the story due to the sequence of events that happens. And I would guess everything I just said there was news to many of you watching this, because let's be real, how many of you actually played the Outer Worlds 2? How many of you actually went and bought that game for full price when it released? Clearly not many at all. Based on any of the records I could find online, the closest number I could find, and it's probably not even accurate, let's be real, was that the Outer Worlds 2 was sold somewhere around 200,000 copies in its debut, which is horrifically bad for a game of that size and budget. If it had sold at least 1 million copies by now, Obsidian would have announced it, but that game, like Avowed, it just kind of came and went. And I know people will think, well, no, they can do a New Vegas sequel, but they did. They did it twice already. It kind of worked the first time, but that was when Obsidian's entire studio wasn't having its culture completely altered by mass hiring and activists, and the sequel, which unironically begins with a Giga Chad Miss Marvel-esque looking woman slapping her very feminine male co-pilot, is kind of everything you need to see to know the tone of where Obsidian wants their games to be. I think people are just kind of tired of it, man. I think it's also pattern recognition. I think the last people you want today making a Fallout spin-off game is probably Obsidian again, because the people who were instrumental to why like New Vegas was so good aren't there anyways. Chris Avellone, of course, who co-founded Obsidian and was instrumental in writing that game, left the company after he was sabotaged and won a defamation case that was placed against him by former female co-workers who accused them of, you know, the S and the A. I can't say the word on YouTube, I'm sorry. But anyways, they were lying. He won the case, but the damage was already done. Chris Avellone then left with millions in his pocket and probably now hates Obsidian and the people who work there for the most part, because Chris, based on what I've been told behind the scenes from people that I trust in the industry, Chris Avellone is not an activist. He's not into pandering. He's not, I guess, for lack of a better word, woke, if you will. He's just an old school game designer who wants to make cool games. Maybe that's what that smear campaign was designed for in the first place, because Obsidian was shifting in a way that he clearly didn't agree with. So he got accused of things that he never did. Thank God that didn't work, by the way, and Chris is now a free man, but I'm sure Obsidian was plenty pissed when they couldn't take him down either way. Now, if Chris Avellone could create his own specialized team of developers to make a Fallout sequel, okay, now we're cooking with something. That could be an amazing game in the making. But again, I don't think that's the direction that Bethesda would want to take Fallout these days anyways. Like, just go look at the TV show. In my opinion, the TV show is frankly abysmal. I watched the opening episode of season 2 and they already screwed up things like crazy. For example, there's a part early on when Lucy, that's the main character, is holding a sniper rifle while in Dinky the dinosaur's mouth, an iconic location if you play New Vegas. But as Game Brand points out here, Dinky the dinosaur was facing the wrong way in the TV show. The Amazon show just changed the whole layout of New Vegas' world on purpose, just so that they could, I guess, use member berries like with Dinky's iconic design to tell you, hey, we're in New Vegas. Don't you like that we're in New Vegas now? I mean, it doesn't end there, and apologies if I can't use any footage of the show here because Amazon will 100% copyright strike me if I do, but even when you meet factions like Caesar's Legion or the Brotherhood of Steel in Season 2, everyone is just depicted as incompetent and stupid, and everything is just a joke to these people. Nothing is taken seriously. It's as if the world of Fallout in the Amazon show, at least, is like a parody more than actually existing within that same world. Does that make sense? And again, the show could not exist if Bethesda didn't say yes to everything there. We know Todd Howard is involved heavily with the show as well. So he's clearly fine with the Fallout show being basically a comedy parody more than anything else. It pretty much turns Fallout into, like I said, a parody, which Fallout was honestly never meant to be. Fallout was meant to be dire, dark, and borderline survival horror. Like, just go look at the Master's design in the very first Fallout game. He's like something out of the stuff of nightmares in there, but here anything resembling Fallout is kind of just dangled in front of you just to make you watch the show instead. I mean, it's working, as Bethesda intended in terms of boosting game sales. As Dexerto reported here, the number of people playing Fallout 4 on Steam at least has doubled thanks to the new season. However, again, it's now a new generation of Fallout fans who are going now to expect the games to basically be the Marvel comedy stuff instead of what they're supposed to be, which is about human desperation and the core concept of Fallout being obviously about how war is inevitable. But I guess that doesn't matter as much. Now it's just let's make funny quips and completely disregard lore, like the new California Republic just suddenly not existing anymore apparently. And one of the most lethal forces in New Vegas, Caesar's Legion, being a bunch of parodies walking around now too. Like, I get the appeal somewhat. You want to make jokes, but when everything becomes a joke, nothing matters anymore, you get me? This is why I still think the Metro games are far better at depicting an actual post-apocalyptic nuclear world, because in Metro 2033 and its sequel games, things are not fine or quippy at all. The world is constantly a dangerous place, even going outside requires an oxygen mask for the most part. Yet in Fallout, it's just the next video game property getting the modern audience treatment, and it kinda bothers me greatly. Like the fact that Bethesda is apparently gearing up to make a Wolfenstein show in today's climate, you already know it's going to be the most insufferable thing you've ever seen. There's no way that some activist with a chip on their shoulder isn't going to just make the current presidential cabinet and then just turn that into like a Wolfenstein villain thing pretty much. Sure, the websites will love that, and I can only imagine the commentary when that happens. But then Chris Avellone even answered a fan about a potential new Fallout game from Obsidian, and while he's not there anymore, he obviously has people who work there that are still loyal to him still. Anyways, as Chris confirms here, Obsidian have said publicly they don't want to do a New Vegas sequel. But from what he was told, it's more like this decision wasn't really their choice, which kind of tells me everything. That even Bethesda knows deep down that current Obsidian is just not capable of doing it anymore. Again, just go look at Outer Worlds 2 or hell even Avowed. Not even a single NPC in any town in Avowed even moves. They just stand still. I have no idea how that game even got released in 2025 the way that it was. Apparently Avowed will be getting a big update, probably to coincide with its PS5 release. Maybe I'll check it out, I don't know, but from the initial release anyways, Avowed was basically confirmed to be another by-the-numbers Western slop RPG game with fun combat but very forgettable characters, boring lore, and a bad main quest line with, like I said, NPCs that just don't move. They're just static in the world. And that's what I mean. You can't really use past successes as a meter to gauge whether these studios could make what made them successful in the past again. No studio out there makes something with the intention of we're going to make this game knowing full well it's going to be worse in every conceivable way and it will not resonate at all with our audience. These decisions are backed by studios taking what their talent can do reasonably. It just tells me that New Vegas or something like that from current Obsidian is just frankly impossible. I would love to be wrong. I hope I'm wrong even, but I don't think I will be, sadly. Same with Bethesda. We can sit here and go and they're the people who did Skyrim and Fallout 3, but the truth is they also made Starfield, which was like the first major release from mainline Bethesda pretty much to not get nominated for literally any award of any kind when it released. Maybe Fallout 4 was the same way too, but I don't remember. Either way, Starfield just came and went. It had zero cultural impact behind like one YouTuber yelling about its pronoun usage, which ironically gets proven right time and again. Otherwise, nothing else is remembered about Starfield really. Apparently, Starfield will also be getting some new expansion with updates for when it hits PS5 as well inevitably. Maybe they could turn it around, but I'm just not convinced. The last thing released for Starfield was Shattered Space, an expansion which is seen here from Metacritic, nobody enjoyed it. Not even the reviewers could really save it either. But this is not a misfire as some might think. It's actually a direct reflection of what Bethesda's talent is currently capable of, and that's the point. Which is why I don't know if Bethesda could even reasonably surpass Skyrim with a future Elder Scrolls even. It's maybe that the creative juice is just not flowing the way that it used to. Like a batter in baseball whose arm just can't swing the way that it used to after that injury, you know? They might just be beyond their prime at this point. Again, look, I would love a new Fallout spin-off, but I would love to see anyone but like Bethesda or Obsidian do it either. But with how Todd Howard's ego seems to work, he was so angry when New Vegas first came out because it eclipsed Fallout 3 in every way and was made in like half the time even. How do we get back to that Obsidian again? Where they were like mad wizards making classics in less time than it takes Bethesda proper now to just make a single expansion. It's like that old saying, they just don't make them like they used to. Like, you know what a studio's talent is retained because the games consistently get better and not worse. Look at From Software. They did Demon's Souls, then Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Sekiro, etc. Every game kept increasing the quality of what From Software was known for because the people who worked there didn't leave to other studios the way that Western talent usually does. Do you know the term brain drain? How when someone leaves, they don't properly teach what they know to others before they go? So that when they leave that workplace, it's now just worse because that institutional knowledge in a sense has been lost forever now? That happens like all the time in Western gaming, dude. It's absurd how common it is. It's why you don't see it as often in the East. Because it's not very common for developers to leave for other studios. They do, sure, but nowhere near the same. Remind me again why every Zelda game or Mario game does well, reviews well, and feels like evolutions to those series. Oh, it's because those developers have been with Nintendo pretty much since day one. Well, imagine that. Same with From Software. I have no doubt their next big game, whatever it may be, will be amazing as well, because the people who worked on their other games are working on the future ones too. And that's not really the case with Bethesda or Obsidian anymore to the same level, or even BioWare, Rocksteady. Don't even get me started on Halo, because Halo is just not in good hands. And I'm not even lying. Like, look at this from Eurogamer in October 2025. One of Halo's art directors at 343 left after 17 years. And then they shared an ominous message that once they're able to share their story publicly, everyone will know how bad it is. Which tells me that this director is probably under NDA right now, but once that NDA expires, oh boy, we're going to be getting some spicy information about Halo, no doubt. But that's what I mean. mean, right? With that Halo director leaving, for example, did they teach their knowledge to other devs there? If not, it's just more brain drain again. It's like multiple departments restarting from zero because the most talented people just keep leaving. Why do you think Supergiant Games keeps releasing better games? Because the same people keep working on them, from Bastion all the way up now to Hades 2. The same could be said about Team Asano, which has made games like Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, and more as well. The problem is that the West has this, how do I put this, disposable attitude, I guess, is a good way of putting it when it comes to treating their talent and cultivating it, right? Obsidian is a great example of this. When Chris Avellone was there, Obsidian was on fire, making hit after hit, but once the smear campaign began and he got forced out of Obsidian, had the lawsuit and then won and all that, you have to wonder, did Chris leave any real tangible knowledge to the others there before he left? Because when Chris Avellone left Obsidian, I would consider that to be a massive gaping hole when it comes to institutional knowledge with how Obsidian made their games in the first place, because again, he founded the company, or co-founded it at least. Because it's no coincidence that the moment that Chris Avellone leaves, everything Obsidian makes goes from amazing to like good at best. Maybe Penitent did review well, a very small project all things considered, but most of their other games are kind of just saved by committee, usual stuff that you know. Maybe that's good enough for them. Maybe that's just what they want to make now. Just make things that are fine so that Game Pass players keep subscribing, but it's not the next New Vegas, unfortunately. This is why I don't think we're going to see a new Game of the Year from AAA in a bit here, unless it's from Software maybe. I think the reason why award seasons are being swept by like indies and AA's is really simple. Because remember when I said brain drain? Yeah, those indies and AA games are where that institutional knowledge is going to right now. The people that actually know what they're doing and are capable of moving things forward don't really want to work at these big studios anymore, and you can't really blame them. Remind me again which game swept the Game Awards recently and where the lead developer guy came from. Alright, he originally came from Ubisoft before starting his own company. So that's where the main developers who left came together to then make Expedition 33. Of course it was. This is why I don't think Fallout will necessarily ever really improve or anything. It will just continue to be fine. It won't shatter the pillars or anything because it's like real life, you know? When someone gets an easy way to make money, why would they go above and beyond if people are going to buy their things regardless of quality anyways? Why would I give you a game that runs well at launch? Why would I care if your anniversary edition doesn't work with your mods in Fallout 4? You're still going to buy it because it says Fallout on the cover, so what's really the difference? That's kind of the problem though, you know? Fallout could be more than just a series being undermined for well over a decade, which also is a TV show where everything is made for Reddit humor MCUs like slop fans, but for Bethesda it's enough. Sure, the show completely disregards core lore and ruins the reason why the nuclear apocalypse happened in the first place, but who cares if the dinosaur is facing the wrong way? Or whether anything we're saying or doing makes any lick of sense in the long run. It will all just lead to double the players playing Fallout 4, a game we made like 10 years ago. So that's great, right? Look, an older game is making us enough money that we can just skirt on by for years again. Remind me exactly why Bethesda needs to try it all these days. If mediocrity keeps getting rewarded, there is no reason to achieve excellence. Sure, you'll have the developers who are still obsessed with chasing perfection. Your From Softwares, your Nintendo's internal teams, or smaller studios that are popping up here and there releasing genre-defining games. But for every anomaly that's out there, there's 20 studios that either can't achieve that due to brain drain or because the leaders at the top just don't care enough and they want to just sit in their offices playing video games, I guess, or gambling while on work hours instead. And to prove my point, look here from Insider Gaming recently. There's a mysterious countdown going on for Fallout right now on Amazon Prime. Nobody knows what this countdown is counting down to. Some believe that it's a shadow drop of Fallout 3 remaster, which would be cool, but according to Insider Gaming sources, that won't happen. It could be in an announcement of the remaster, but not like, like a shadow drop is the point. But again, let's just say hypothetically it is a remaster of Fallout 3 or New Vegas, right? We both know that will then make Bethesda millions in sales if that ends up happening. It'll be the Oblivion shadow drop all over again. But it also kind of proves my point that again and again when it comes to Fallout, Bethesda is just dangling the content that people have played already instead of working on something new instead. As I said, a Fallout 3 remaster would do gangbusters right now, especially with the show's popularity. It would be a very good cross-media push. I mean, after all, right now there's a Fallout event in Black Ops 7 as well with like skins and all kinds of stuff to unlock too. Maybe that's all Bethesda wants these days. Just keep re-releasing stuff because it keeps making them money. Skyrim will probably get re-released sometime this year on something else too, because why not? But the way that things are going, Fallout kind of needs to be allowed to grow and actually become something that is worthy of what its fans believe that it can become again. If nothing matters, if the games of futures past can't be recreated in like new experiences due to brain drain or lack of effort, where does that leave us in the end then? I'm no longer sure if Bethesda even knows the answer to that question anymore either. We should have had at least 2 new Fallout games by now. Instead, you had Skyrim 10 times, and now you can teabag people as Lucy in Call of Duty. I mean, very cool, Bethesda, but not really what we're looking for. One day we will get a new Fallout game, but I hope it's going to be everything we want it to be. But I would be lying if I said I'm looking forward to what current Bethesda is even capable of. Because if they don't care to release functional products like they did with that horrible anniversary update, or care care to make actual new games anymore. It just makes me wish that anyone but Bethesda was doing Fallout in the future. But what do you think? Let me know, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.